Hey everyone, Joey here, and today we're going to be doing a setup guide for Vita3K, the Sony PlayStation Vita emulator on Android. You are not going to need a PC for any part of today's guide. You can just use your Android device. Now I did do a Vita3K setup guide video not too long ago, and then they went and updated the entire thing. So we are back here again today with a new updated guide, and hopefully things don't change too quickly so that this can stay up to date for a while. That being said, as of this video, it is still a decently early emulator. While lots of games do work, and they work great, there is still a ways to go for compatibility. I'm going to be using my AYN Odin 3 for today's guide, which is a Snapdragon 8 Elite device. However, Vita has decently good performance for mid-range devices as well, so you may have a good time with a large variety of devices. You are going to need your own ROMs for today's guide. ROMs are games. Now, for many reasons, I can't help you with how and where to get them. The usual format that you want, though, is USA, no NPDRM. Those are usually in zip format, and just a quick hint, you can Google it. As for organizing these files, I would create a ROMs folder on your device, or better, your SD card, if you have one connected, and then create a PS Vita folder, and then throw all of your games, updates, and DLC inside of it. Once again, all of this can be done directly on your Android device, just using any file manager and web browser. Let's go ahead and download and install Vita3K. Head to Vita3K.org, the website for the emulator, also linked in the description, and click the menu top right, and then click download. Choose Android Nightlies and it's going to download the APK for us. Go ahead and open that APK file to install Vita3K and then open the app. Give the page a read and then click next. And first thing we need to do is install firmware. Now thankfully, there's download links to each right there on the screen. So click download for pre-install package, push and hold on the link in bit.ly, and then choose open in new tab. That let me download the file directly. Now, it might download as a TXT file, which is not what we want. So you may have to go in and rename it and remove the .txt using any file manager that you have. Then go ahead and click install, allow permissions if it asks, navigate to the file that we just downloaded and select it. You now get an option to delete the file after install, and I would suggest that you do not enable this because we may need these files again later. Repeat the same steps for the main firmware and the font package. For main firmware, just scroll down to download update and then download. Same thing with renaming it if it does come out as a TXT. Finally, after installing all three, it should say installed for all three. Click open library. Now, the very first thing that we want to do before anything else is decide where you want to store all of the Vita3K data. Now, games, updates, and DLC can get large. So I choose to store it all on an SD card. It also helps to make it portable too, so that I can move it to any other device. Even without an SD card, I would still move your Vita3K installation somewhere else because it is behind Android's data storage. That means that a lot of devices can't access the files, and you're going to want access to those files. So I would suggest that you put this on the root of your internal storage, even if you have no SD card. To do so, click the settings cog, and scroll over to emulator. Scroll down to emulated system storage folder and select it. Head to your SD card or internal storage and create a folder called Vita3K right on the root, and then select use this folder. Click OK. Go ahead and completely close Vita3K and then reopen it. Now at this point, it might ask you to reinstall some firmware files because I don't believe it moved them for us. So go ahead and click install firmware, firmware pup, and then reselect your firmware files to reinstall them. This is why we didn't delete them earlier. Let's install our first game, so click the plus icon bottom right. Some games can come as PKG files, or zip, or VPK. So select which matches your ROM type that you have. Then navigate to your ROM and select it to install it. Mine are in zip for this video, and I usually have them as zip. You can also install updates and DLC the same way for the games that you have installed. Now, after you do install these games, they are installed to that folder, so you don't need to keep the original zip if you don't want to. You're basically keeping double space for no reason. Now I'm going to assume that you've installed at least one game before moving forward, because you're going to need to. Go ahead and click the settings cog at the top and head to the controls tab. If you're using a controller or handheld, turn off show on-screen controls. Scroll down to connected controllers, and it may have mapped the controls automatically, but if not, you can go through one by one to map your controls to your controller or handheld. If you have a back button, you can use that for PS. Otherwise, it's not super necessary. Lastly, head to the emulator tab and scroll down and enable performance overlay if you want to see how your games are performing. Back to the main menu, make sure to save and exit. Now, you might have noticed that we skipped over a lot of settings there, namely graphic ones, and there's a specific reason for that. We want to leave everything as default, and now we can adjust games on a per game basis. So push and hold on a game and choose custom config. Now any changes made here only apply to this specific game. So it is super useful for troubleshooting any games that need specific settings. But head to the graphics tab. Scroll down to custom GPU driver. If you have a Snapdragon device, you can choose to install custom drivers that may or may not improve the performance of the game. It is hit and miss, and that's why we do it on a per game basis. The download link brings you to Kimchi's drivers, but Mr. Purple is another good one there. I'll have both in the description. Now this is more advanced for advanced users, so if all of this sounds a little confusing, you can skip this part entirely. But for those of you that do know what custom drivers are and how to get the most out of them, this is what you would want. Now under that, you can set upscaling if you want. So maybe the game is easy to run and you have a lot of power, so you can upscale it to 2x or so on for better visuals. Some games may require some additional settings to change depending on the game to fix certain things and all of that, and you would do them all here. Back out and make sure that you save again. Just tap on the game to start it. Then you can have some fun and play the game. Now, if you swipe up and use the back arrow or back button on your handheld or back gesture, you'll get the in-game menu. You can adjust settings on the fly if you want for this specific game. You can also exit the game using this menu. Alright, last thing here, let's take a look at where all of your data is saved. Head to your file manager and then either the internal storage or the SD card wherever you created that Vita3K folder earlier at the start of today's guide. Then you want to go inside of the UX0 folder. Now there's a few folders in here that are important. First, the add cont folder, which would have your updates and DLC if you installed them. They're separated by the title ID of the game. Next, the app folder is where your games got installed to. So if you head inside of it, you're going to see all of the title IDs, which are the games. Back out. If you head into license, these are files connected to the games that let them run properly. Back out. Lastly, we have the user folder, and inside of here is all of your save data. Now the best part about this emulator is if your Vita3K folder is on the SD card, when you move the SD card to another device, you can install Vita3K again and then choose this existing folder on the SD card and all of your games, updates, and DLC will be ready to go. So there's no need to reinstall anything or do anything on a new device. Alternatively, for those of you that use SyncThing, if you sync these folders across devices, it is the same idea. It is extremely useful and it saves a ton of time. This is why you don't need the original ROMs, updates, or DLC files. Once you install them once, you have them forever ready to go. That should be just about it for today. We went over everything and anything that I could personally think of, and you should be able to do anything that you want in Vita3K now using today's guide and the different timestamps. Like I said before, it is still a very early and alpha emulator, so expect a lot of issues and crashes and so on, but you can have a good time with it. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about retro gaming, and hope you all have a good one.